How's it going, guys? We have a medium difficulty question for pathology, step 1 internal medicine 2CK. You have a 60-year-old dude who has appendicitis with septic shock. You have leukocytosis, normal range 4 to 11,000, clearly 18,000. Shift to the left, NBME will write it like this. That means neutrophilic shift. Okay, neutrophils can imply bacterial infection. All right, so that's what we have here. Low blood pressure, fever, right lower quadrant tenderness, leukocytosis. We've got septic shock. Then we've got other details in here. OMG, ischemic heart disease, takes daily aspirin. He drinks home brewed beer, and he runs a car washing business, okay? So let's look at the labs here. Sodium should be 135 to 145. Normal, it's 140. Chloride should be 95 to 105. No one gives a fuck about the normal range for chloride, actually. The relevance of chloride on NBME/USMLE questions is when you're calculating anion gap, which we're going to do here. Bicarbonate 17 should be 22 to 28. So we have low bicarb 19 out of 20 times. When you see a low bicarb, it's metabolic acidosis. Okay, the 1 out of 20 times would be a chronic respiratory alkalosis where bicarb's gone down to compensate if they tell you the dude's in the Colorado Rockies. Okay, but you see a low bicarb here, instantaneously you have a metabolic acidosis. So we can summarize so far. And CO2 is down to compensate. 32 should be 33 to 44. Some of you are going to be OCD, do Winter's formula. I already did that. So CO2 is in the normal range, what we expect. So 3 halves bicarb plus 8 plus or minus 2. And then we're going to have our bicarb be in that range that's down to compensate. So looking at to summarize so far, we've got septic shock secondary to appendicitis, and we have a metabolic acidosis with respiratory compensation. And let's look at the answers. Most likely explanation for these findings. Choice A, Crohn's disease, wrong fucking answer. So what I'm going to do right now, let's calculate anion gap. The way we do that is we take chloride plus bicarbonate, we add them together. We take that number and subtract it from sodium. If it's 13 or greater, that's a high anion gap. If it's 8 to 12, it's normal. So 105, 17, 122, subtract it from 140, and we've got 18. So it's an elevated anion gap here. So elevated anion gap, metabolic acidosis. And we know mud piles is the mnemonic for high anion gap metabolic acidoses. So when we look at these answer choices, we can instantaneously eliminate Crohn's disease because even though there's a GI issue going on, if you didn't know this was appendicitis, it's not a good answer when we're discussing mud piles. It's not part of mud piles, is it? So it's a little bit awkward of an answer, but I've seen NBME do this for this type of question. So our remaining 4 answers are all mud piles. Okay, and the answer is simply going to be lactic acidosis. And it's because, and this is the high yield, ultra high yield point, you need to know that in any type of shock, septic, cardiogenic, hypovolemic, doesn't matter, you can get ischemia/hypoxia to tissues due to malperfusion. That's what shock is, right? So you're going to increase anaerobic respiration, increase lactate production, metabolic acidosis. So for example, here we gave you septic shock with low bicarb, and that's lactic acidosis, as I just said. But another example, you have a dude who has an MI, and they give you a bicarb of 20. We said normal range 22 to 28, and you're like, why the fuck's the bicarb low? That's not hard. That's just cardiogenic shock due to the MI leading to lactic acidosis. And the NBME, similarly, they can write, dude has an MI, dude has hypovolemic shock. And they say, which of the following could be seen in this patient? And they have the different acid-base combinations, alkalosis, acidosis, metabolic, respiratory, and the answer is metabolic acidosis. Okay, so that's an exceedingly high yield point, and that can be embedded within a more detailed question such as we have here. Ethylene glycol antifreeze. I mean, he decided to be a flagrant asshole. He runs a car washing business. I mean, okay, this can cause calcium oxalate stones. Shows up one question on NBME in history. Can be aware of it. It's not high yield. Methanol, homebrewed alcohol can cause blindness. You got to know that. Not high yield as well. Can also be part of paint thinner. So homebrewed alcohol can be methanol toxicity as well as lead toxicity. Okay, that can cause a microcytic anemia, lead. Home caskets that can be used for it. But methanol is blindness from homebrewed alcohol and paint thinner. Questions on the NBME exam. And then salicylates, metabolic acidosis. and respiratory alkalosis. It's a mixed pathology here. We don't have a respiratory alkalosis. Our CO2 is within the confines of Winter's formula, but it doesn't matter because it's obvious that we've got septic shock, and that's the cause of our lactic acidosis. Also, symptomatology like tinnitus, ear ringing, exceedingly high yield for salicylates. Choice E, wrong fucking answer. You know the deal, and 2 make more content of the subscription. Appreciate your time. That's it.